There is inside each of our minds a very bewildering affinity for that which damages us. I am convinced that all of these fatal attractions that we carry in our heads, along with their consequent self-destructive behaviors, are the result of illusions, which is why the very best thing that could happen to you this morning would be for you to leave here profoundly disillusioned.
Because he performs magical illusions as he helps people recognize and break through the false beliefs that hold them back, illusions about themselves and the world, Billy Riggs is known as the world's first and only Disillusionist.
What you just saw is a podium moved by an unseen force, a purely natural force, I assure you. But your life, in a similar fashion, is moved by a whole host of unseen forces. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your biases, your defense mechanisms. But at the top of that list, I would have to place your attitudes. I know that some of you are facing some pretty difficult challenges right now. But they only become insurmountable when you face them with an improper attitude. They only become insurmountable when you allow yourself to believe that because you cannot change the past, that you cannot seize control of your destiny. They only become insurmountable when you allow yourself to believe that because you are a victim of circumstances beyond your control, that you are therefore helpless. And that, my friends, is nonsense. Because you and I hold right now in the palm of our hands, in equal measure, the single greatest purely human power in this universe. And that is the power to face any circumstance with a fabulous attitude.
Are you too tired to go on? Getting funny vibes from the neighbors? Maybe you just feel overloaded. Perhaps your children listen to too much rap music.
First, you'll need to take out a bandana. Now, fold the bandana in half. That's right. Fold it in half. Now, take out your mother's favorite handbag. Place the bandana in the handbag. Now, close the handbag firmly around the bandana. What the audience doesn't know, neighbor, is that you never put the bandana in the handbag at all. That's right. You kept it hidden in your left hand. Remember palming? Sure, I knew you would. Remember to keep your hand in a natural position. Now, make a magical gesture over the handbag. And with a grand flourish, fling the handbag open and wait for your well-deserved response.
In an unforgettable presentation, world-class illusionist Billy Riggs seamlessly blends his powerful message with spectacular illusions and hilarious fun.
Sir, you are thinking of a single word. You never wrote it down, you never told anyone, you merely thought of it. Would you please, for the first time, tell us the word you are thinking of?
Newspaper.
Newspaper?
More than 2 million people on 5 continents and 10 cruise ships have experienced the incredible message, magic, and comedy of Billy Riggs.
12:35. Come out!
As the CEO and founder of 3 successful organizations and a former counselor with 2 master's degrees, Billy understands human potential.
You and I have something in common. We all became illusionists as small children. In fact, psychologists tell us that the faulty perceptions of the world that we all drag with us through adult life to cripple our creativity, paralyze our potential, limit our sales, impede our progress, and drain our lives of joy were generally formed in our minds by about the age of 6. It is the eternal law of life that if you choose to get up with your head in the wrong place and say, my glass is half empty, it will get emptier. The consequence of a negative attitude is that you will attract bad things and bad people to yourself. And over the course of your lifetime, you will drain your glass to the dregs of all of the joy that you might otherwise have known. And you'll find a very troubling process at work in your soul. Your glass will grow smaller. Your ability to know joy will slowly diminish. As day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, and even decade by decade, you find yourself paying the compounded interest on a life lived with a sour, dour, negative outlook. But the converse is also true. If you choose as an act of your will to get up with your head in the right place every day and say, my glass is half full, it will get fuller. And you'll find a wonderful process at work in your life. Your glass will grow larger. Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is your brain on a bad attitude, and this is your brain on a good one.
Ladies, did my pulse stop?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the deceased person. Burn it completely. Pour the ashes into my hand, if you will, please. I'm going to just lay them on my wrist like this. You will notice that they cling to my wrist. Can you read that, ma'am?
A.T.
A.T. Those your father's initials? Your father's name was Arthur P. Townsend. Am I correct?
He said, I want you to take off your coat and tie. You'll be selling in no time. I said, I can't. There's a dress code. He said, I'm going to relax it for you. Just take off your coat, take off your tie. You'll be selling in no time. And so I did, and sold 2 condos that day. The next day, I closed 3 out of 5. Within a week, I was tied for first in the company in sales because we calculated that on a monthly basis, not an annual one. And I stayed there the remainder of the time I worked for that company. Within a few weeks, I was strutting into the office. You talk about having your swagger back. Man, I could not wait to get to work so that I could share my brilliant sales insights with the plebs, minions, and neophytes down in the middle of the pack who just couldn't cut the mustard. One day I saw Andy alone in the corner. Sensed my opportunity to express my gratitude. I walked over, shook his hand, and said, Andy, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have saved my sales career. I never would have dreamed in a million years that a coat and tie could have that sort of influence. You know what he said? It can't. It dawned on me what he'd done. I said, don't tell me this. He said, Billy, it had nothing to do with your coat and tie. He said, I didn't know what else to do. You got yourself in a doom loop, and this was my last-ditch desperation effort to save your job. Let me ask you a question. What changed from the time that I was worst to the time that I was first? Well, here's the answer. I don't know. The only thing I'm absolutely certain of is that it was all up here.
The moral of the story is this: those who swim with the sharks in this life and live to tell about it do so not so much because of their personality or their IQ or their looks or their talent, but because of the intensity of their motivation. Now, all of you are motivated by different things. Some by money, some by philanthropy, some by fear. But irrespective of what your particular set of motives might be, the fact remains that a key difference between survivors and shark bait in this life is the level at which a person is motivated to perform. All highly influential people are infected by what I call a magical dream. And it is each leader's ability to infect the people around them with that dream that determines in large measure how effective he or she can become. All great leaders have one. For Alexander the Great, it was to conquer the world. For the founding fathers, it was to create a free society. For Abraham Lincoln, it was to end slavery and preserve the Union. No one has said it better in the modern era than Martin Luther King Jr., who stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial 4 decades ago and declared, I have a dream that this nation under God shall rise up and live out the true meaning of her creed, that all men are created equal. And decent people of all races followed, not just African Americans, because they were swept up in the magic of his dream. They lived off the overflow of his passion. They took his goose pimples and put them on their own bodies until they could internalize and articulate and own the dream for themselves. Now, I've got good news for you. Your dream doesn't have to be nearly that magnificent, because you don't need 50 million people to follow you to make it come true. You just need the people around you to catch fire with your vision to make it come true.
But he is an illusionist who is really first-rate, first-class. He also is a professional speaker. He says what he says real well and with a lot of zip and humor and enthusiasm, but most importantly, he's a professional human being. He really wants to help. That's the reason people benefit from his message.
I thought I was going to see about a third or second class magic show. This guy is really a good illusionist. He could take this on the road and just sell that if he had nothing at all to say. Some of the best tricks I've ever seen, and I wish he would tell me how he does some of them.
In my 17 years as a Riley producer, a full-time Speakers Bureau, and now a full-time career planner in the speaking industry, working with heavyweights, I have never seen such talent rolled up into one person as I have with Billy Riggs. Billy Riggs has the ability to inspire as Zig Ziglar, be as analytical as Stephen Covey, and as entertaining as David Copperfield, all rolled up into one.